I've been reading this new book called The Gap in the Gain by Dan Sullivan, and it's also written by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. This book was very eye-opening to me on why I see 90% of people who end up failing with Etsy and print on demand, or just Etsy in total, to kind of dive deep into how people get led into failing in their business. The most common cause of them failing is them just quitting out early. And for those who are watching, I know that a lot of the times on my channel, I share a lot of high revenue, high profit listings and Etsy shops and ways that you can make money online, basically. Now, this is to inspire and motivate and not discourage people, but there is the time and the place where a lot of people see these numbers, they see these statistics, they don't see sales in their own shops, and then they decide, hey, I'm not seeing what these other sellers are seeing, so maybe this isn't right for me. Comment below if you're feeling this way, because it is a shared feeling. You are not alone by any means. I felt this way when I began my first Etsy shop, and I felt so discouraged and like I will never be successful. Yet I stuck in it. And I just want to hopefully bring out that message in this video that if you stick in it, you may see a huge difference in your life in a year's time frame. For example, when I began my Etsy shop, I started in January of 2021, and I kept posting listings, and I saw traffic coming to my shop, but no sales for a good month. And I was in a lot of Etsy and print on demand Facebook groups that people were posting that they got their first sales and their first few sales, and that they hit 100 sales and 1,000 sales and so on and so forth. And I wasn't seeing anything in my shop. I kept comparing myself to those other shops, and it got me to the point that I stopped posting new listings on my shop. I was almost going to close my shop, but luckily I had a sale in that stretch of time that I thought I was going to shut down my shop completely. I was about to pull the trigger and I did not. And I am so happy I didn't, because within a year's time frame, my shop ended up hitting over 250K in revenue, and I ended up getting the top 1% seller badge in my business. I want to say that there was a lot of other mindset shifts and changes I made in my daily life that led to that. So after I got that first sale, it reignited me to keep posting listings. So what I like to remind people a lot of the times is my story is used for motivation and inspiration, but at the same time, it is a skewed data point when we look at averages of regular Etsy shops scaling in the Etsy algorithm and seeing sales to the point that they see profit. And I know for a lot of new sellers, when you start on Etsy, it's like, okay, I uploaded listings, I'm going to get a sale, right? And when you don't see that sale, it gets really disheartening and discouraging. The reason why I brought up the book, The Gap in the Gain, is because it is so transformational in the way that I changed my thinking that I didn't realize I did when I first began, but I ended up doing just unintentionally. So what I stopped doing is I stopped comparing myself to the place I wanted to be and using that as a measurement of my success in life. This sounds really strange at first, but there's a diagram in the Gap in the Gain book shows where you are starting, what you have achieved, and then your ideal, which is that goal. So my goal when I first began my Etsy shop was to make $1,000 a month of profit. And I kept comparing and measuring my success and achievements by what I didn't have yet. And in the Gap in the Gain book, what Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy say and try to get through in the messaging is that you shouldn't be measuring between the gap, which is where you are now and where you want to be. And instead, you should be measuring in the gain in the successes and achievements that you already have, which may be small and it might not be that big sale number, but what you want to measure in is the tiny steps and actions you already took. You opened an Etsy shop. First of all, that's a huge huge accomplishment that a lot of people don't even get to. The second thing is you have uploaded listings and you learned. Your achievements might not be a monetary win, and in fact, they can be intrinsic and internal motivators. By you measuring all those small achievements and the things that you did to get to where you are now, that will keep you happier and keep you more in the long-term seat rather than in the short-term seat of your driving in your business, so to speak. So basically what I'm getting at in explaining this book is I don't want anyone watching this to measure your achievements and your happiness and your success based on what you don't have already, which might be that one first sale. It might be your first 100 sales. It might be your first 1,000 sales. And I've noticed a lot of my clients and students who end up really doing well on Etsy and achieving all the things that they set out to achieve. They don't get as discouraged because they're measuring in the backwards. They're looking at all the tiny things that they did in all of the learning curves they had and the experiences, and they're taking that as a gain and a win rather than a defeat and a loss, which you're going to have. You're bound to have a loss and a negative experience if you're continuously comparing your shop to other people's shops or your shop to your future shop that you don't have yet, if that makes any sense. So if you're thinking you're having $1 million shop in a year's time frame and you don't currently have it, then it feels like a deficit and a loss. But if you think about your shop and the fact that you didn't have a shop a year ago, then think about that and how good you feel. And also to recommend reading The Gap in the Gain, because there is so much more that you can take out of this book than just this. But this is all essentially why a lot of people quit out early and they fail early, because they're in the gap mindset where you're constantly thinking of what you don't have. For me personally, I always want to be in the long-term game with anything I do. And I understand that there's going to be patience involved and it's going to take time to see success in my businesses and profit. I found that yes, you can have some instant wins and gratification, so to speak, but you're always going to be wishing you had more. And for anyone who is even scaling in their businesses on Etsy and you're feeling defeated or sad or like a failure, just know that you are maybe in the gap. You may be thinking, oh, I made hundreds of thousands of dollars, but I haven't made $1 million. And that is still in the gap mindset. The gain mindset is you made a sale or 100 sales or thousands of sales. Those are accomplishments and wins and learning that you had along the way to get there. Also, if you made it to the point of this video, type in the comment section, I am gaining in my Etsy shop, just to let me know that you watched this video all the way through. Besides that, don't forget to subscribe, like the video to share it to more people, and I'll see you all in the next video here.